There are gaps of months and months and months, and if you think to that iconic picture of her on a C-17 flying to Libya, she has sunglasses on and she has her handheld device in her hand. We have no emails from that day. In fact, we have no emails from that trip. So it's strange credibility to believe that if you're on your way to Libya to discuss Libyan policy, that there's not a single document that's been turned over to Congress.
From Face the Nation yesterday on CBS, South Carolina's Trey Gowdy, chairman of the House Select Committee on Benghazi, saying there are huge gaps in emails from former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. You heard Trey say none from that trip to Libya. And, of course, all the revelations that Hillary was using personal email accounts, plural, with the server reportedly housed at the Clintons' home. For more on this developing story, we're pleased to be joined by Congressman Peter Roskam of Illinois. He's also a member of that Select Committee on Benghazi and likewise a member of my old committee, Ways and Means. Peter, thanks for your time.
JD, great to be with you. Thanks for having me on.
You have been very critical of our former Secretary of State precisely because of that gap that Chairman Gowdy is mentioning.
Yeah, it's incredible to me. I mean, and that is the word to use. It's not a credible position to assert that they're cooperating and so forth, and that all the emails are out there or are upon us. You know, this idea of having an exclusive use of a separate email account and then to preserve those documents now to the point where the American people have to go to Hillary Clinton and ask her to release what are official records based on a manipulation at the front end by Mrs. Clinton is just incredibly difficult to fathom.
Specifically on the gaps, how long has your committee known about them?
Our committee has known that Mrs. Clinton used a private email since the summer, but our committee just found out that she's used it exclusively just within the past couple of weeks. So this is news for the committee. The entire time we've been told, and I questioned State Department witnesses in January, asked them about when these documents would be forthcoming and so forth, and we were told that it would happen with a matter of weeks, but only lo and behold to define that they really don't have them.
Peter, as you were talking, we're seeing video from a Senate committee hearing involving the former Secretary of State. Speaking of the Senate, a senior Democrat there, Dianne Feinstein of California, very animated in her response this weekend. Let's listen.
What I would like is for her to come forward and say just what the situation is, because she is the preeminent political figure right now. She is the leading candidate, whether it be Republican or Democrat, for the next president, to be the next president. And I think that she needs to step up and come out and state exactly what the situation is.
Senator Feinstein on NBC's Meet the Press. Peter, do you agree with Dianne Feinstein?
I think I agree with Dianne Feinstein for different reasons. I mean, Dianne Feinstein is putting Hillary Clinton into a political context, and that's an obvious thing. She's obviously on the verge of possibly making an announcement to run for president. She's obviously a leading figure and so forth. But that's not what the Benghazi Committee is about. The Benghazi Committee was tasked with doing three things. Number one, find out what were the events leading up to it, what were the events around the Benghazi event, and what was it all about afterwards. Those three things, and Hillary Clinton stands between us and the truth. And it's incumbent that she remove herself from that trajectory and that she offer up these documents that even Dianne Feinstein recognizes are absolutely critical to the investigation and to find out the truth of what happened.
To date, I understand Secretary Clinton has only released a tweet. With that in mind, what are the next steps the Select Committee may take?
The Select Committee is in the process and has already moved to do all the legal recourse necessary. So these are known as preservation letters and the issuance of subpoenas and so forth. I think where this ends up going is that there's got to be some neutral arbiter that decides, it could be a retired federal judge, as Chairman Gowdy recommended, to go through these various emails. We're not interested in Hillary Clinton's personal emails. We have no interest whatsoever. But the American public has an expectation that official records, and those are official records of a sitting Secretary of State conducting official business, those are official records, that those be offered up to the American public so they can know the truth that happened at Benghazi, why 4 people were murdered, and how to avoid it ever happening again.
Peter, Congressman Darrell Issa suggests that Mrs. Clinton could face criminal charges if she knowingly withholds emails from congressional investigators. Let's listen to what Darrell had to say.
A subpoena, which Trey Gowdy issued, is so that, in fact, it will be a crime if she knowingly withholds documents pursuant to subpoena. He needed to do that because she wasn't forthcoming 2.5 years ago. She, in fact, hid the very existence of this until she was caught.
Former Chairman Issa appearing on CNN's State of the Union. Let me ask you, Peter, do you agree with his assessment in terms of Mrs. Clinton's potential criminality?
Look, he's talking about the compliance with subpoenas. He's talking about compliance with the Federal Records Act and so forth. And so I'll leave it up to law enforcement and so forth to figure out what her vulnerability is, if anything, as it relates to a violation of criminal law. Here's what I do know, JD. I know she is in possession of documents that absolutely will lead to the truth about what happened at Benghazi. And I know that the American people have a right and an expectation that those are going to be forthcoming and that we play fair, and fair is to know the truth, and we're going to pursue it to the best of our ability.
Peter, about a minute remains. Let me switch subjects with you very quickly. Reports late last week that Democrats were going to defend Republican Speaker Boehner. That's somewhat troubling given the dynamic. How does the Speaker reconcile himself with the rift in the Republican conference? 45
Look, it's
seconds.
an old story in a way, in that, you know, part of what we've got going on is a political base with an expectation that things get done quickly, working within a system that the founders created where things don't happen quickly. And the Speaker is trying to navigate through that, and which way that dynamic carries the House of Representatives and which way that dynamic carries the entire country is anybody's guess.
Congressman Peter Roskam, Republican of Illinois, member of the Ways and Means Committee, and of course that Select Committee on Benghazi. Sir, we thank you for your time. We'll keep an eye on all these stories, and we hope to have you back real soon. We are going to take good care, Peter. We're going to step aside right now for a Newsmax Now update, and then America's Forum will continue.